I'm Mike AD, and welcome to the Delta League Podcast. This week, week 8. And let's get started right away. Let's go to the Monday night game where Miami is hosting LA and Memphis. And in this one, Miami ties Memphis. Miami 23, Memphis 23, LA 11. 2 weeks back, Miami came within 1 goal of winning. This week, the exact same scenario. When this team wins, this city is going to explode. Now, yellow cards in this match went to Vortex player Maximus Brown for a bad-looking clip on Bobby Sheffitz. However, sometimes the players you expect to show up don't show up. And other times, the players you never expect to show up. And in this case, Carla Winters, the Fallen Angels player who was forced to retire due to a broken neck. She starts ragging on the ref, and she tosses a cola at official Pavel Neshevich. And Neshevich shows no quarter. He ejects a crippled woman. And that is going to cost the team some money. And Mendoza Middleton, who sees this incident from the sidelines and thinks, you know, I want to get involved, but if I do, I get suspended. What does he do? He jumps on the court. Black card, game, set, match. Blood simple, folks. You can't get involved on the court when you're a healthy scratch. That ensures he will not play until week 10. Now, there was some extra entertainment in this match as Memphis fans were brawling in the stands with everybody. Gotta love those Pharaohs fans, dressed up like Tutankhamun in Las Vegas, kicking people's asses all over the place. Our fan base is insane. Now, for Miami, leading the way it was Marquette Weaver with 5 goals. For LA, it was Marty Hagar with 5 goals and 5 blocks. And for Memphis, it was Alan Atom with 14 blocks. And Shep Forsberg with 6 goals. And in the end of this one, Miami picks up 3 points. Memphis picks up 3 points. Los Angeles, nothing. Now, let's move on to Phoenix on Wednesday, where they're hosting Toronto and Washington. And in this one, Toronto wins it. Toronto 29, Phoenix 26, Washington also 26. Now, Phoenix player Carlo Flamia suffered a broken jaw in this match. He'll be out 2 weeks, which means it's a sure thing he won't be going to Chicago for the All-Star game. Now, Washington player Dave Scarry won the 50-50 draw, which he then gave to a war veteran. Now, Phoenix player Drake Beck was given a yellow card in this match for wearing York Raskin's jersey to the pre-game warm-up. Remember last week Raskin broke his neck. Afterward, the media questioned him about it, and he said it was a simple tribute, and he had no idea such a thing was even illegal. Read your league constitution. Now, once the game got started, Gabriella Davignon had a wonderful altercation with Washington star player Elix Henderson. Davignon just takes him down with a few accidental trips, but Henderson doesn't let that fly. He shoves her. She shoves him. He slaps her. Ref runs in. They break that up before Davignon went past the point of no return. Now, as a result, Henderson is gone for 1 game. This team appears to be hitting a rough patch. That All-Star break can't come soon enough. Now, Toronto player Robbie Cutter started this week with an act of heroism as he saw a truck rolled over on the highway. So he stopped, ran over, kicked the windshield in, and pulled the driver out of the burning rig. Good to see that not all Delta players are assholes. Now, for Phoenix, leading the way, it was Carlo Flamia with 6 goals. For Toronto, it was Travis Valencia with 11 goals and Krol Vitkovich with 15 blocks. And Washington, leading the way, was Sebastiano Guarnieri with 6 goals. And in the end of this one, Toronto picks up the 4 points. Phoenix, 1 point. Washington, also 1 point. Let's now move on to Saturday matinee's game, where Vancouver is hosting Dallas and Montreal. And in this one, Montreal wins again. Montreal 24, Vancouver 18, Dallas 15. Now, Montreal player J.J. Syverson broke his neck while on vacation earlier in the week, and the diagnosis is permanent paralysis. His Delta career is over. More on this later. Now, Montreal big boy Gus Partenza got yellow carded in this one when he just destroyed Kofi Dominguez. It's hard being that size and being gentle, but Kolas Hadi, he's been nursing his suspension until 2045, and he decides he didn't like Partenza's hit, so he gets on the court, goes after Partenza, and I have to hand it to this guy. Partenza is 6'8", and he has the human side of beef, and he gives him a crazy shot. As a result, Hadi got beeled across the court, and he gets black carded. Now, be careful who you fuck with, and by I mean that, don't fuck with Darcy. That's a 3-game suspension for black card number 2. He's going to be gone until early next season. Now, Dallas player Anatoly Schaefer got reprimanded for using a homophobic slurs against Nick Hoja. This isn't 1986 anymore. There's a bill that comes with that one. Now, in addition, the police are looking into an incident where a group of Montreal fans assaulted a hot dog vendor and stole beaucoup de chien chaud. Poor guy. Still no leads. Fucking animals. Now, for Vancouver, leading the way it was Jonathan Monopoly with 11 blocks. For Dallas, it was Nathaniel Mansfield with 7 goals and Frederick Giacalone with 5 blocks. For Montreal, it was Stefan Grice with 8 goals. And in the end of this one, Montreal picks up the 4 points. Vancouver, 2 points. Dallas, again, nothing. Let's now move on to Detroit, where the Rock are hosting Denver and Boston, and Detroit gets back on track. Detroit wins. Detroit 43, Denver 32, Boston 16. Now, Rad Mardane got yellow carded in this match, and that's 3 on the year now, and he better go into the confession booth before he is excommunicated for 1 week. Now, during this game, Denver assistant captain Randy Magnuson gave life-saving CPR to a fan who had suffered a cardiac arrest. Most people don't know that Magnuson is a trained EMT. Luckily, the man has survived, and he owes his life to Magnuson and his quick instincts. Now, after this game, Rock player Maurizio Fiori gave an extremely profane post-game interview into an Italian news outlet. I mean, there were about 10 fanculos, 12 stronzos, La Zega 12 times, Cazzo 23 times, Figlio di puttana, Madonna mia, that is gonna cost him some mañana, eh? Oh, Christ. Now, for Detroit, it was Isaac Parker Johnson with 12 goals and Stanislav Muto with 5 blocks. For Denver, it was Alexis Zaragoza with 8 blocks and Larry McMaster with 7 goals. And for Boston, it was Vasily Rollins with 6 goals. And in the end of this one, Detroit picks up the 4 points. Denver, 2 points. Boston, nothing. Now, let's move on to Saturday's game, where Atlanta hosts Seattle and Chicago. And it's happened. Chicago takes down Seattle. Chicago 34, Seattle 32, Atlanta 15. Now, Atlanta player Enrique Hubacek was arrested earlier in the week after a road rage incident was caught on a dash cam that painted him in a less than favorable light. The actual footage is just classic. One guy leaves the gas station. Hubacek opens his door. The other guy rips his door clean off. Hubacek, he loses it. Starts spraying gas on the other guy's car. 2 guys just had real bad days here. And in the end of the day, there's 2 cars. One of them doesn't have a door. And the other is covered in high-octane gasoline and has all the windows broken with a tire iron. Both these guys are going to have their day in court. And as a consequence, he did not play because the optics were way too bad. Not that it mattered, because Atlanta just stunk the joint out again, as predicted. Now, the locker room bandit struck again as Atlanta was locked inside their dressing room. But based on how Atlanta played, it would have been better if they stayed there. Now, Vlad Millet got tangled up with Atlanta defensive ass-kicker Jamie Ekstrom, and as a result, both of them got a ride on the school bus. Now, there are reports of it being too cold in the arena, but I don't see how this is possible, given that Atlanta was absolutely incinerated. Now, for Atlanta, it was Casey Dobrichka with 5 blocks. For Seattle, it was Evan Parawal with 9 goals and James Korn with 9 blocks. For Chicago, it was Jonas Stankavicius with 7 goals and Finn Wehrle and Kipper Grimmett with 5 blocks each. And in the end of this one, Chicago gets the 4 points, Seattle gets 2, and Atlanta, no score. Now, let's now move on to Salt Lake City, where the Swarm are hosting New York and Philadelphia. And in this one, New York wins it. New York 34, Philadelphia 17, Salt Lake City 9. Now, Philadelphia assistant captain Trent Penzavelli showed up on court way more ripped than before, causing people to speculate that he is taking performance enhancers or the steroids. Now, that or he had become close friends with, Detroit general manager Mike Vacciolo. Now, he was asked after the game about his appearance, and he said, at the end of last year, I took a look in the mirror and I wasn't happy with my physical appearance, so I changed my diet. I started doing planking, military training, calisthenics, and weight training, and it's really worked for me. Needless to say, nobody believes the guy. The guy looks like a freaking Greek statue. Now, Fire Demons player Bart Spratt strained his bicep in this match. He's gone 3 weeks. On top of that, New York collected a trio of yellow cards in this match. Unfortunately, 2 of them belong to Captain Luke Brownlee, which means he'll be out for 1 game. The other yellow card went to Assistant Captain Richard Mully, and the self-created stupidity stops there for once. Now, earlier in the week, Toronto player Ravi Cutter pulled a driver out of a burning rig on the side of the highway. Then a few days later, SLC player Eli Ercolani saved a woman in a local park from a sexual assault. At this rate, the Avengers will be out of business. Now, for the Sting, it was Eli Ercolani and Eddie Doherty with 5 blocks each. For New York, it was Bethlehem Cato and Rhino Montalban with 7 goals each, and Ruben Nygaard with 9 blocks. And for Philadelphia, it was Jermaine Jardetsky with 7 goals, and Cyrus Holleran with, this is not a typo, 42 blocks in a single game. 40 frickin' 2. And yeah, by the way, teammate Ariel Vignola, 17 blocks. What the hell is in the water in Philadelphia this week? Jesus H. Christ. Now, in the end of this one, New York picks up the 4 points. Philadelphia, 2 points. Salt Lake City, nada. Now, let's take a look at the standings. Starting up at the top, Seattle, 30 points. Detroit, 28 points, closing the gap. Chicago, 26 points. Washington, 25 points. Denver, 22 points. Toronto, 19 points. Philadelphia, 18 points. Miami, 16 points. Memphis, 15 points. And the playoff line is drawn there. Beneath that, it's Phoenix, 15 points. New York, 14 points. Montreal, creeping up, 13 points. Vancouver, 12 points. Los Angeles, 11 points. Dallas, 8 points. Boston, 7 points. Atlanta, 6 points. Salt Lake City, 5 points. Now, let's now take a look at the scoring lead. Up at the top, no surprise, Rob Donoff, Seattle, 72 goals. Laurie Moss, Seattle, 59 goals. Star Palmer, Chicago, 57 goals. James Korn, Seattle, 45 goals. Stefan Grice, Montreal, 42 goals. Travis Valencia, Toronto, 41 goals. Finn Wehrle, Chicago, 40 goals. Cameron Baptista, Mohamed Carnasale, 38 goals each. Vlad Millet, Seattle. Alexa Saragosa, Denver. Isaac Parker Johnson, Detroit, 37 goals each. Now, let's move on to the block leaders, and we have a new leader, Cyrus Holleran, Philadelphia, 55 blocks. Vladimir Millet, Seattle, 52 blocks. Alan Adam, Memphis, 42 blocks. Kofi Dominguez, Vancouver, 40 blocks. Emmett Ruin, Seattle, 37 blocks. Harlequin Butcher, Philadelphia, 35 blocks. Jimbo Grover, Jamie Ekstrom, 32 blocks each. Romeo da Rosa, Vancouver, 31 blocks. Reggie Joag Dev, SLC, 29 blocks. Angel Malloy, 28 blocks. And 3 additional players with 27 blocks. Now, let's now move on to league news. Earlier in the week, Montreal Maelstrom player J.J. Syverson broke his neck. The medical diagnosis is permanent paralysis. Pending some kind of medical miracle, Syverson will never walk again. God fricking speed to JJ and his family. Just must be a catastrophic injury. Now, there was a rumor this week that the Atlanta Inferno were going to change the name of their team, and that name was the Dragons. This ended up being a joke Twitter account. And the club outright denied this rumor unequivocally. Now, what they should have chosen was the Atlanta Dumpster Fire, because that is apropos. Now, Dallas player Anatoly Schaefer is getting his mandatory one-game suspension for homophobic slurs. He's supposed to be back next week from concussion protocols, but as it appears, much more damage was done. Now, word out of Seattle is Vlad Milet has stepped down as captain of the Pirates. He said, "When I first took the captaincy, I really didn't want it. I felt like I was the kind of player who played better without the pressure of a leadership role. I know I've been incredibly blessed here and to play with so many amazing players and to win those awards, but I'm humbled. I really am. I've come to the stage where to become the player I know I can be, I have to do it without the captaincy. We have so many leaders on this team, and I feel it's totally safe for me to take a step back." Word is Lori Moss will be the Pirates' second captain and the first woman to serve as captain of a Delta team. Now, SLC just seems like the place to be if you want to make some money and win a shitload of games. Just kidding. It's the worst place to be in the league now. The Swarm look to finish behind Atlanta, and that is difficult. And if you think it's hard to get playing time in Seattle, imagine how upset you'd be if you couldn't get playing time in Utah. Well, Chris Hines is in a very public spat with new SLC coach Matt Farrell, who's extremely unhappy with his playing time. And if you look at the guy's stats, he's far from the worst player. And he only assumes that it's personal. And if he's not going to play him, then trade him. I don't know any team that is looking for a guy like Chris Hines. But we can pray for a miracle. Now, on to the mailbag. Matty V. We've had at least 4 players break their necks, and all their careers are over. Time to restrict what players can do in their free time because these players are under contract. Can't afford to keep losing assets at this rate. I'd like to see what the Delta Players Union has to say about teams telling the players that they can't play football with their buddies on the 4th of July holiday because there's a risk of assets being maimed. Good freaking luck. As it stands, we have 3 players with broken necks. 1 is paralyzed. I'm certain there is an amiable solution to what seems like a pandemic of catastrophic injuries. Now, Rio Piero Barone. I think I'm going to take Philly and Montreal this week. Oh boy, here we go. A few weeks ago, you ditched the Maelstrom for the Shred. Now the Maelstrom won't stop winning. You've fallen victim to the curse of giving up on your team. Now you have to watch them win. I don't like Philly's chances of coming out of this week with 4 points, bud. But I do like Montreal's chances against the Pirates, though. You know what they say, right? There's no room for fandom when money is on the line. And I think there's a good chance that neither the Maelstrom nor the Shred get 4 points this week. But that's how the cookie crumbles. We got one here from the Human Zucchini. Human Zucchini. Okay. Oh boy. Here we go. A few weeks ago, you ditched the Maelstrom. No. How is the All-Star format supposed to work? Who gets in, and who would you put on each team? Well, this year will be the first year of the Delta League All-Star Weekend. And there's going to be a week off following Week 10, and the players are headed for Chicago for the Fan Fest festivities, where the players can meet the fans, do meet and greets, participate in the Delta League Skill Challenge, plus the first All-Star game, which will be East, West, and Central. Now, each team will be comprised of 12 players, 6 of which will be one participant from each team. The remaining 6 will be from a fan vote. However, no team will have more than 3 players from each team. So if you're a Seattle fan, there won't be 7 players from the Pirates. And 1 player from each team in each division must be a rookie. Now, in addition to this, the trade deadline is taking place that weekend, so some of these players may be members of another team by the end of the week. At week 11, I'm going to cover all the All-Star action, team selections, and all the trades that took place. Now, who do I think should be on this team? Well, I mean, for the West, I think Vancouver sends Bernie Pukila or Romeo DeRosa. DeRosa is a big defensive star. For Seattle, you could pick 3 people at random and they might be better than anybody else. But you have to start with Rob Donoff, Laurie Moss, rookie James Korn, and I'm not even saying Vlad Millet. That guy is phenomenal on both sides of the ball. I think in the end of the day, 3 players go from Seattle. I think from SLC, Alexander Harris or Reggie Joag-Deb are going. The only question is who's going from LA? The answer to that is whoever's left. Jerome Jalbert looks like he'll be the selection from the Fallen Angels. Now, from Phoenix, it's Captain London Chatbert or Curly Barnabani, a guy who may very well be traded to Toronto in a few weeks for Travis Valencia. Now, and for Denver, it could be any number of players. From Larry McMaster to Alexa Saragosa and Pooh McCarthy. They're having an incredible bounce back year. Now for the Central, I mean, for Dallas, half this roster has been totally decimated, leaving the obvious choice to be Nathaniel Mansfield. I mean, for Chicago, the obvious choice is league's reigning outstanding player, Star Palmer. Plus, you have a great handful of players here. Finn Wehrle, Cameron Baptista. This team is very, very good. For Memphis, it's not such an obvious choice because their attack has been so balanced. Khalil Claudel looks like a good choice here. Now, Toronto has Travis Valencia, and he's the obvious choice here. And it might be the final time that he wears that uniform. Now, Ash Malik could be the rookie selection from this division. But remember, Venus Pilar is also having a hell of a season. For Detroit, I think the obvious choice is Isaac Parker Johnson, far and above the best player they have. Now, Montreal looks to send Stefan Grice to the All-Star game, and he's been a major highlight in the last few weeks, and Gus Partenza. He hasn't been as dominant as people would like him to be, which is why he may not make this game, but I think within a few years, he'll be a frequent flyer to the annual All-Star game. Now to the East, Boston has been decimated, by injuries, so the obvious choice will be Vasily Rollins. Now, New York could send any number of players to this game, but all year the highlight has been Mohamed Carnesale, along with Rock Weinstein or Rhino Montalban. Philly looks to send Ariel Vignola or Jermaine Jardetsky to this game, but stranger things have occurred. Now, Washington could possibly get 2 players on this Eastern Conference team. The first is Elix Henderson, and the second being Angel Malloy, who is having a great year. Now, Jamie Ekstrom looks to be the obligatory entrant from Atlanta. The one highlight in a season of absolute mediocrity. And Miami will most likely be Marquette Weaver. This guy has come onto this team and led them in a big way. This team is no longer a joke, and he's part of that. Now, on to the Shop Zone. New in the Shop Zone, it's the Rob Donoff jersey, the Don't Fuck with Darcy t-shirt, the Till Phillips, the man, the legend, on the back, 11 inches, and the Lori Moss jersey. Now, on to the games and predictions for Week 9 before we bid you adieu. Now, we'll start on Monday with Boston hosting Memphis and Salt Lake City, and we got two shit shows and an average team here. If Memphis doesn't leave Boston with 4 points, or heaven forbid leave with nothing, somebody needs to answer for that. Now, Wednesday, Toronto hosts Vancouver and Atlanta, and Toronto runs into two teams that are seriously in need of some much-needed personnel changes. Atlanta fired their GM a few weeks back, and it's going to take time for the message to filter down to the entire organization. Vancouver is just mediocre this year, so Toronto swoops in, takes the 4 points in front of their hometown crowd. Now, let's move on to Saturday, where Miami hosts Denver and Philadelphia in a matinee game, and it seems like every week Miami gets closer and closer to getting that elusive first win, and Denver has had some down weeks since they started the season with 3 or 4 straight wins. Now, Philadelphia is the kind of team that capitalizes when a team does not bring their best. Now, Denver is pretty stacked. No one can deny that. I think they pick up the win here. The only question remaining is, will Miami be able to once again get the 2 points and stay above that playoff line, or will they put up a pathetic effort for the first time in 9 weeks and leave with nothing? I think they will. I'm taking Philly to leave with 2. Now, we got a game here with Detroit hosting Phoenix and New York. And Detroit was exposed 2 weeks ago, and we thought they were going to show their true colors this week, but they bounced back in a big way. Phoenix has been returning to form, and New York can't seem to put it together, but I think this one will be very close. Now, on to Chicago, where the Pride host LA and Washington, and if LA wasn't so much of a shit show, this would be the game of the week. Washington has had a few bad weeks after a brilliant start. They need to get back on track, but they're going to run into a proverbial buzzsaw with Chicago here. They knocked off Seattle this week. I think they ride that momentum and get the 4 points. Now, last game is Dallas hosting Seattle and Montreal. And Dallas is looking worse and worse as the weeks go on. Montreal has been returning to form just as everyone pulled the plug. Seattle was beaten this week, and the previous week put up characteristically less goals than average. With so many players out, I think this team can be beaten again, but so many things have to go right for Montreal to pull this off, and they haven't seemed to put it together when it mattered. I'm taking the Pirates. It's impossible for this team to be less than spectacular for this long. We'll see you next week on the Delta League podcast, where the action never stops. See ya.